Hello everybody, welcome to part 3 of rebuilding the Monocar. It was just last night that I finished video number 2 and everything's still mocked up. I'm going to work on this brake system. Let me show you what I've come up with, or at least where I think I'm heading with it. Before I get started, a lot of you have asked me, when are you going to get back on the Studebaker? Well, there's old 27 and BMW. And here's the Studebaker, tucked away safely. My dilemma is I need a car to drive because our club is active out here, and the Monocar being down after I crashed it, you know, I only had the BMW really to take out. So I'll be getting back to this soon. Follow this series here on the Monocar because I'm going to be doing the differential and brake system very similar to this. This is a caliper and bracket out of the VKC parts bin over there. They built quite a few cars, done a lot of upgradings, and they've got parts galore. And we dug this out, and I can modify it to work with this chassis. So I did a little dry fit. Let me show you what it looks like. So the beauty of this setup is that it's the same thing. I'm going to mount it the same way they do in their cars. So as it turns out, this will slip in. Now it won't come all the way up yet because it's hitting some bolts and some this brackets in the way right here. So I have to make a little cutout to get that to come up to where this plate will be flush to the bottom of the tube. And then I can add brackets as I see necessary. All right, I'm excited about that. I have a good foundation. I made a couple little cuts. I notched it here, and there was a tang sticking out here. I cut that off. And then from dry fitting it, I determined that it needed to drop down 3/8 of an inch below this surface here, below the bottom of the 1x3. So this, I found some 3/8 steel I had laying around. I'm going to cut this off, put a little piece right here too. Then I will drill some new holes and make some little adjustment slots. I'll fill these in with weld here probably. Okay, it's coming along. I'm going to weld these onto the plate. Then I can put it in the mill and drill holes, make slots. But that'll give it the proper spacing below the bottom of the chassis. I'd say this is looking okay. Once it cools off, I'll put it in the mill and machine it into submission. So I've clamped it in place. See this little bracket here? I have to modify it. I'll probably have a little welded tab right there that this can flip over just as an extra brace. But there will need to be a little bit of adjustment to it, just so that I can get the disc perfectly aligned to the inside of the caliper. But I don't see that as a big issue. Let me show you what it looks like from underneath. So this hose right here, I can loosen that and have it come right across here and over, and then the brake line would come through the body right in here. And then here I would have bolts going through. There's one there and one here. And I made those holes just a little on the large side so there's a little bit of movement. I'll have a top plate on there too so I can tighten it down pretty good. Alright. Not bad, I guess. That'll work. Okay, I drilled the holes through the rectangle tube. I don't have them tight yet, but you can see how the holes are slightly oversized so that I have a little bit of movement side to side and forward to back, and I can get it right where I want it before I tighten it down. I have it bolted in solid now, and now I understand what this bracket is for. See that little bit of movement right there? That's this arm right here flexing a little bit. See that? So I'll rig it up so maybe it mounts on the side here, and that'll stop that side to side movement. So I've been contemplating whether to continue to use this wood tub or to make an aluminum tub. One problem is this space in here is 51 or 52 inches, and that's bigger than my foot shear and my box brake. So it means I have to make little corners. And you saw me do that in the on the Studebaker, and man, it's a lot of work. Now on the other hand, I could clean this up, repaint a few things, just freshen it up all over, and I might just do that. We'll see. So I've been doing a little bit of sanding on the body. Sanded off the paint here. I still have to sand the inside. I'm roughly setting up the original brake pedal, and here's the master cylinder, and trying to figure out how I might support it. My first thinking is I might cut out this wooden part of the tub and put a steel platform in there so that this brake pedal arrangement is nice and stout, but I have to do some measuring and compare it to the setup over there on the Studebaker. Alright, still thinking. I received my new sprocket that Jack got for me. So at some point I'll take this axle out of here and I'll put the new sprocket on. In the meantime, I did a little notching right here. So now the body sits all the way down, clears those bolt heads. And I'm focusing on the brake pedal arrangement. Okay, I've decided how I'm going to set up this new pedal arrangement. I'm cutting out, I've already made the cut, this part of the wood tub. And I'm going to basically recreate the shape, the two ends and the bottom, out of some, I have a piece of steel over there, 1/4 by 4 by 36 that I can weld together to create the platform. I'm going to maintain this piece, it stays with the chassis because there's some attachment points for the front wooden bulkhead. And then these are rough sketches, but basically it's a plate, and then this is a new pedal I can fabricate. I'm playing around with different sizes. There's one attachment method to the plate there, and then this would be the master cylinder. Here's a little kind of side sketch. So anyway, I'm going to fabricate the whole thing. And that'll add a little extra weight to the nose of the Monocar, which it's always needed. It's super light on the front. So a few extra pounds there will make it drive better. Alright, let's get on with making this thing. Okay, so I'm heading down this path here where I'm making a steel plate that'll hold the pedal arrangement. You can see where I've cut the wood frame out. And I have a piece of steel here that I had to weld it together. I'm going to lay it out, and I'm going to cut some holes in it, some slots to lighten it up. That's what these are for. Anyway, that's my plan. Okay, moving on. Here's the layout of the slots I'm cutting. You know, this isn't the easiest or the quickest way of putting together this brake and throttle pedal plate, but it gives me a reason to use the mill. And this is the same basic technique to make a motor plate with slots. So keep plugging away here. So I finished cutting out these slots, and by the time I finish this piece I'll have drilled a few more holes to lighten it up. But right now I want to determine how big this bracket needs to be that holds this master cylinder. I've done a little research and I've decided that from the pivot point to the push rod I want it to be 2.5. Now on the Studebaker this is 3, and I think 2.5 will give me just a little bit more leverage when I'm pressing on the brake pedal to actuate the brakes. But anyway, there's the pivot point. Alright, so now I can start fiddling with this bracket. Okay. So I've been messing with this setup for the master cylinder, and basically this is the part I cut out of the wood tub, and I'm recreating this, in essence, this setup but with a master cylinder and a different pedal, and it'll all get installed right here on this plate. So here's what I came up with. Here's the pedal, and here's the new bracket, and it fits that angle because I want the master cylinder to be in essence level to the chassis, more or less. So I have to make 2 of these in the pedal, and this is from the bottom to the top is 8 inches, in case you were wondering. This is the front cross rail of the chassis, right here, this piece. Well, I almost have this ready to weld onto the plate. Here's the pedal face. That'll go on here. This right here will come up here. Yeah, I think this will work. Well, I always say the tougher the project, the bigger the mess. And I've got a pretty good mess going here, working on these pedals. But I'm getting where I need to be here. You know, I already have the brake pedal more or less done. And now I've been working on the accelerator. It's a little bit different arrangement. One, it's lighter duty. And 2, I needed to move the pedal about 1 inch closer to the seat, because when I was at full throttle I'm really reaching. So it's coming along pretty good. I have to modify the linkage here. It'll actually be a better setup than before. Okay, keep plugging away. It's taken me a week of evenings to get this far, but I think I'm happy with the way it's coming together. I need to hook up the linkage and run the line from this hose here back to the back. Alright, let's keep plugging away. And maybe I'll clean up the garage. Okay, so I managed to get the shop all cleaned up, and I'm ready to continue on here. I think what I'm going to do is put it together far enough to do some test driving, because then I'll have to take it apart to paint it. I went down to AutoZone, picked up a pre-made brake line. Here's the size of it. It's 40 inches long. So I think I have everything I need to make that come together. I have the hose under here. And then I have everything I need to do the throttle. So technically I could get this thing on its wheels and do a little test driving. So I'm putting it back together now to take it for some test driving, and that means I have to button everything up. So I've been working on this throttle setup, and I've got double nuts right here. That's a stop nut and then just a regular nut. Double nut there, and then a little bit of 3-in-1 oil in there, and the spring. Smooth as silk. Once I determine how much throw I need for full throttle, I'll rig up some kind of stop back here. And then I haven't got to the brake side yet, but I want to put the seat in here and then route this accordingly, bend it a little bit so it lays better. Okay. Continuing on with preparing this to test drive, I've installed the cowl and the front bulkhead, which helps me finish up installing the brake system. So here's the reservoir. I think I'll make a little bracket instead of just screwing it in like that, but it'll work for test driving. And then I finished routing the brake line. So that's coming together okay. So I managed to get the tires on the rims this afternoon. Man, that was a tough job. I don't like doing it. But I got it done. I want to put the rear hubs together and get the wheels on the axle. So here's the components. You got the rear hubs and the plates. You need a couple large washers, your keys, and the nuts. Then these are 5/16 by 3 3/4 grade 8 bolts that they go through the hubs. So the first thing you have to do is open these up. These holes right here line up with the holes in the hub, but you have to open them up to 5/16. Now that allows me to use the bolts and put it all together. So now I'm going to put one of these hubs on the axle. I'll show you that. Okay, to install on the hub, there's a set screw here. You back it out so you can get the key in there. There's a slot here. Push it all the way on until it seats. Tighten up your set screw. Get a washer and then the nut. And it's an 11/16 wrench to spin it on. Okay. So once that's tight, then you can bolt the rim to the hub. Alright. Okay, so now the rim can be bolted to the hub. So I just put on the nuts, tighten them up, and I'm good to go. This is a pretty nice setup. They've worked on this hub quite a bit. This is probably their 3rd or 4th or 5th generation. It's a pretty nice setup now, nice and simple and strong. Okay, Nice. I like the way they make that rear hub. That is slick. It's nice to have the rear wheels on there again. I gotta get it down off the sawhorse, put on the front end. I have a list of incidental things that I have to do here, but shouldn't take me too long, and I'll have this thing running around the yard. One thing I need to do is install these split collars on the rear axle, so I'm going to use 4 of them. Let's get those in place. Okay, I have the split collars installed. Here's 1, 2, number 3, and number 4. Now these split collars are important because if your cycle cart is going to break down, it'll be because of 1 or 2 things. 1, the axle will move because these little set screws in these bearings, they're just not enough. So you use these split collars, that axle won't move and the chain will stay put. The other reason you'll break down is because the motor is not solidly mounted to the chassis. You know, when you step on the throttle, there's a huge amount of torque right here on this little sprocket, and it will pull that motor forward just ever so slightly. If there's any flex in this plate at all, then that motor will slip forward a little bit and the chain will come off. So a nice stout motor plate and split collars, and that eliminates about 95% of the breakdowns. Alright, things are shaping up. One of the things on the list was to bleed the brakes, so last night with the help of my wife we started that process and quickly determined there was a leak in the brake line underneath here, so I tightened that up, and then we started to get the bubbles out of the system. It was starting to get a pedal, but then the pedal would stick. We'd push it in, it wouldn't return. The spring inside here wasn't quite strong enough. So this morning, this was the spring off the old setup. I made this little bracket and this little stem right here. So now it'll return, which is important because when that pedal comes all the way back, it opens up a port that allows the fluid to drain in there for the next time you press the pedal. So anyway, we're going to continue bleeding the system here. Get that done. Alright. One of the things on the list was to bleed the brakes. So last night with the help of my wife we started that process. And quickly determined there was a leak in the brake line underneath here, so I tightened that up. And then we started to get the bubbles out of the system. It was starting to get a pedal, but then the pedal would stick. We'd push it in, it wouldn't return. The spring inside here wasn't quite strong enough. So this morning, this was the spring off the old setup. I made this little bracket and this little stem right here. So now it'll return, which is important because when that pedal comes all the way back, it opens up a port that allows the fluid to drain in there for the next time you press the pedal. So anyway, we're going to continue bleeding the system here. Get that done. Alright. Well, I'm pleased with the upgrades. I took it for a quick spin. The brakes work. They still need a little bit more bleeding, but the differential feels good. I'm going to drive it a little bit more. I'm going to get the brakes bled completely. Then I can see how they do at high speed. Alright. So far so good.
What?
That's fun.
That's fun?
Yeah.
That go faster?
Yeah.
Watch out!
Oh man, what a difference. The differential and the brakes. You know, I haven't been able to get up to, racing speed, but I can tell already it's going to be a winner. So I'm going to call this the end of video number 3, and we'll keep working on this, get this baby all finished up. Alright, thanks for watching everybody. See you next time.